the one, the only, Ben Sion.
Good evening and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube Daily Double. Today we're doing Masechah Shekalim Perek Zayin, the last Mishnah, Mishnah Zayin, and we're starting in the 8th Perek, the first Mishnah. Mishnah Zayin continues the list of things that based in, at least the Sanhedrin, had the ability to say about certain things that were property of Hekdesh and really were not allowed to use for certain purposes. They allowed it to be used, money of Hekdesh, just like Hefker, base and Hefker. Bate didn't have the ability to take property of Klal Yisrael and make it Hefker. Also by Hekdesh, it's a little different word, Tanai based in. Stipulation that based in, the Sanhedrin had the ability to take money that belonged to Hekdesh and use it for things that really wasn't supposed to be used for. So what were some of these other things? Mishnah Zayin says, Al Melech Fala Eitzim, Shiva Kohen, and the Osim. They had salt, they had a lot of salt, and they had wood stored away. The wood was used to burn korban on the back, and the salt was also right. Kol korban takriv melech, supposed to bring every korban with salt. So you might think that Kohanim, really the salt was only to eat on the mizbeach. What about the Kohanim when they were eating kudshim? Right? Are they allowed to put salt on their steak that they're eating from the korban chatas or from the shlamim? Are they allowed to? So that's really technically they're not. The Tanai Basin allowed to, and I'll eat them. They use the firewood that was supposed to be for the maracha for the mizbeach adama. They use it to cook their food for the kudshim. Now the Ra says over here, but if they had basar chulin, they had condiment, right? Extra. What if they didn't have meat one day from the korbanos? They had other meat that they had, and they were allowed to eat that in the zar. That they couldn't use the salt for. I'm going to challenge that in Yom Tzion, the special Eden share I give afterwards. I believe a little differently. They also made a Tanai based in that people, right? The para aduma, basically, you burnt the para aduma, you shechted it, and you burnt it, and you made ashes, and you put the ashes with the mechatas, with the holy water, and you sprinkle that water, right? What about the ashes? Are you allowed to use the ashes for whatever you want? So according to Midah Rice, you're allowed to. The Rabbanan at some point said you're not allowed to. They made a Tanai Basin basically to say that you were allowed to, which really was the Din Torah. They really weren't changing anything. It's just the Rabbanan had one point made a Gzera, they removed that Gzera. Ve'al hakin apsulo shu bos mishal tzibur. Right, as I mentioned before, akinim are a zav or a zava, gdola or yoledis. They had to bring a pair of birds, an ola and a chatas. They didn't actually bring the birds themselves. They gave money, and there was a person who was providing these birds, and the Kohanim took it. Let's say on the way to bring the makri of the korban, the bird flew away, or the bird became possibly a treifa, right? What happens? The person already paid his money. So they made a Tanai Basin that they take more money from the lishka. The lishka, one of the lishkas over the kinin. They would take extra money for that, and Hekdesh would lose out. We wouldn't ask the owners to go ahead. It wasn't their fault. Rabbi Yossi Omer Hamasabik is Akinim Masabik is Absulos. Rabbi Yossi argues and says, no, the person who provided the birds for the Beis Hamikdash, he was selling it to them. It's his fault, and he ends up losing. We pass on Rabbi Yossi, like we said before, that whoever is responsible for providing takes a risk, a high risk. If it goes bad, he loses out. Aleph Mishnah Perek Ches Kol Harukin Hanimsaim Yerushalayim Tahorim. If you find spit in Yerushalayim, now spit, if a zav or a zava, they spit, so whatever they're considered an avatuma, a zav or a zava, and their spit is also considered avatuma. Anything which emanates from the body or zava, it's an avatuma. And when we were careful with hilchos tara and tuma and tara, so therefore it can make a person tameh. It can make a kalim. So what if you found spit in Yerushalayim? Do you assume it's tameh or tahor? So we assume most people are not zavim, so therefore it's tahor. Except from the upper marketplace. In the upper marketplace, that was a place where the zavim and the zavos, they used to hang out. It was a hangout place, so therefore we assume most of the spit there was from zavim. Divrei Meir. Yossi Omer b'shari Moshe Shana. Shebe'emsa tmeyin shebestadin tahorim. He also gives a different way of figuring it out. The regular year, the zavim and the zavos, we own the road over here. They would walk down the middle of the road, and the people who wanted to keep Tara, to keep away from them, they would walk on the side of the road, on the sidewalks, let's say, to the middle of the path. that's tummy. On the on the sidewalks, that would be tahor. With shas haregel, however, when everyone's coming to Shalayim during the regel, shav emsa tahor and shvasad tmein shemnei shehin muatin mistalkin litzaden. Everyone, you're supposed to, when you go to Yerushalayim during Aliyah Regel, you're supposed to make yourself tahor. The Gemara says you're supposed to go to the mikvah before you go to Yerushalayim. So most people were not tameh at that point. There are very few tameh people. So the people who took over the road were the Torah people. So spit in the middle of the road was considered Torah. The people that were still Zavim and Zavos were not able to go to the mikveh yet. Their spit was on the side of the road because there were very few. That's the end of tonight's share. Stay tuned for Iyam Mitzion, where I discuss salting your steak. The Kohanim, are they allowed to take the salt of the Beis HaMikdash and use it to salt their steak when it wasn't kudshim? I'll talk about that Iyam Mitzion coming up next.